What's up, trade crew, and happy Friday. Welcome back to the HVAC R&D podcast. And tonight I am joined by a veteran CPA because you know what? It's tax season, and we might as well talk about it since we're all having to deal with it. So let's get it, y'all. What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to the HVAC R&D podcast, the home of the trade crew, the voice of distribution, contractors, and manufacturers. We're rolling into Q2 with some serious momentum, and the show is growing bigger than ever. The HVAC R&D Substack newsletter is officially live. The Ramblin' Rhino column is back in full force with multiple fresh articles dropping every single week, and the newly relaunched resource hub at hvacrnd.com is now going to be your go-to spot for tools, products, partners, and insights built to help you grow in the trades. So if you believe in real conversations from the truck to the boardroom, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss the conversations, columns, and resources built for the people keeping this industry moving. Big shout out to our Q2 partners making it all happen: Diversitech, LiveSwitch, RLS Rapid Locking System, True Nature Meats Company, Residio, and Mon Hummel. Now lock in, turn it up, and let's get into another great conversation right here on HVAC R&D. Trade crew, welcome back to the show. Today on HVAC R&D, I've got Sam Miles joining me. He is a CPA with nearly 30 years of experience helping business owners turn financial chaos into clarity. From tax strategy to acquisitions, Sam specializes in helping trade businesses not just make money, but actually keep it and use it to the best of their advantage. So Sam, thank you for some time today and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, before we dive into the numbers side of things, I'd love to give the listeners a little bit of background about who Sam Miles is outside of being a CPA. I know you're into golfing, do some hiking, but, what makes Sam Miles tick?
I think that's been one of the greatest mysteries of my life. And, it's interesting because even in the scriptures, it says, be still and know that I am. And I think the journey in life is really getting to know who you are and what makes you tick. And to be honest, I think I was addicted to activity in life. And I kept myself so busy because when I got still, I didn't like what I saw or heard. And so I just got back to work and stayed really, really busy for a long, long time. And only recently, I feel like I've done the work to be able to answer that question, to be honest. I used to think it was business and being an entrepreneur. I really enjoyed that. I started my first business when I was a young kid doing newspaper routes, then lawn mowing, then janitorial work. Shortly after, I opened my own CPA firm. But what really makes me tick is doing a really good job for the people that I deem worthy to do it for. I really enjoy my clients, and being able to serve them is a true honor and a privilege, and that's how I feel about it. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do that. Figuring that out has been a true blessing in my life.
I love that you brought scripture into this early. I appreciate that. There's not enough times I do that on this show. I know I bring some stuff up on the weekends of different things, but I love that you said that. That's absolutely one of the best verses because it's true. Especially the way the world is going, it is getting busier and busier and busier every single day. And we've got, this fight for how many screens we can get in front of our face by the end of the day. And I think it's important to be able to take a step back and look at things from a different perspective. So I love that you said it that way.
Well, it's interesting. I've gone full circle when it comes to faith. So, I feel like I can relate to just about anyone. And I think that's part of life, is being able to find compassion and understanding rather than dominate and dictate the will and the way things go.
I completely agree. I truly do. And
sorry, I didn't mean to go so deep on you so early.
No, that's okay. I mean, well, we talked for a few minutes before we get in here, so you and I are kind of already steamed up and ready to go, and everyone else is playing catch up now. But you've been in the CPA world and in the financial world for about 30 years. you had different businesses, as you said, when you were growing up, but what really originally pulled you into accounting and working with business owners?
Well, truthfully, my dad's a CPA and an attorney. So growing up, um, I was one of nine. I was one of two boys and nine kids. I was the second oldest, and my dad and I locked horns a lot. I was a very willful child, and credit my dad for being able to um, point me in a constructive direction. But I set out to be a chemical engineer, and I went out to Houston and did an internship. And then about the first month of doing that, I'm like, oh no, this isn't for me. And I ended up on the loading dock that summer, and loading and unloading the forklift. Driving the forklift was a true joy to me. And the CFO who got me the internship, he walked by and he said, Sam, what are you going to do when you go home? I said, I'm going to change my major. And he just started laughing. And he's like, you want to come and work in my office for the rest of the summer and hang out with me? And I go, air conditioning? You bet. I'm in. He's like, all right, report in my office tomorrow morning. And a couple days later, we got a sales tax audit. And he's like, hey, can you handle this for me? And I'm like, sure. And so I ran all the reports the guy asked for, and he looked at the purchase journal and he put stars by every invoice that ended in 000.00, because of course no sales tax was charged on those. And so then he picked those 2 months that had those on it and one other month to do his testing. And then at the end of the audit, he extrapolated the error over the 3-year purchase sample, and the assessment was over $50,000. And I was like, oh no, that can't be right. I let him peek up our skirt before he made his sample. And then I started doing some research and I found out you're not allowed to do that. If you look at the sample before you make your selection, you can't extrapolate the error. So when he brought the report to us, I said, hey, I want to talk to your manager. The CFO looked like he wanted to burn daggers in my eye sockets, because I'm like, hey, trust me. And he's like, you're a kid. What do you know? You're telling me to trust you. This is a big deal. And I'm like, no, 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 I know. Trust me. And he's like, whatever. And so the manager came out the next day, and sure enough, I was correct, and everything was good. And the manager had us test 2 more months, and there were no errors. I made sure of it. I already looked at the whole 3 years while this guy was looking at his 3 months. And now that I knew what he was looking at, and the assessment went down to $2,600. So the CFO, he's like, Sam, when you go home, change your major to business. You have a gift. I would have never figured that out. And then I'm like, my dad's the one that taught me how to think that way and always be like critically thinking. And he trained me to be a great CPA. He really did. So I went back and I asked my dad, I'm like, what do you think I should do, Dad? And he's like, well, if you're going to major in business, major in accounting, because that's the language of business and you'll never want for a job. And I'm like, ooh, security. I like that. I'll go be an accountant. And accounting is just, it's addition, subtraction, sometimes some multiplication, but it's just anal retentive work. Like it really is. There's a reason and a purpose for it. It's balanced. It's beautiful to me, but like it is very tedious work. So it's not for everybody. There's personalities we can test that we can give people to find out the best people to be accountants, because it's not for everybody. I'm a weird one because I'm like an extroverted accountant. I can talk to you and be able to sit there and do my numbers, and I'm equally happy doing either one. So I'm what I call an omnivert, not an extrovert, not an introvert, an omnivert.
What's funny is I'm very similar to that in some ways. I've had to do a bunch of different disc assessments over the last couple of years for this employer or that employer, and just talking about different things and personality traits. And especially if I do one that talks about how you are at home versus how you are at work, I slide totally different one way than the other. Because at work, I'm outgoing. I'm a heavy D when it comes to being at work, but at home, I'm much more I. I'm kind of like a small I, big D, little S. I'm this weird
Yep.
kind of
Now
shifted version of.
imagine Imagine if you met your wife at work, how confused she would be when she got home.
Right? Luckily, I
Yeah,
didn't. I walked into a Starbucks and I met her, which ironic. I'm drinking Starbucks as we talk
very
about this.
nice.
I met her at a
A healthy
Starbucks.
addiction,
And
clearly.
she is consistently the most expensive cup of coffee I ever got in my life. Um,
That's awesome.
but well, you're based in Las Vegas, which I love Las Vegas. My wife and I used to come out there a couple of times a year. The last several years, I was just there for AHR. But how does that market shape some of your perspective on business and entrepreneurship in that area? Do you kind of see any differences in things just because it's kind of a transient city at the same time, or how does a lot of that work for you?
That's interesting. Um, Being in Las Vegas and having the background of, you know, it's interesting. In CPA firms, you kind of run in like little packs. Like at bigger CPA firms, you start as groups, and you kind of stay connected through each other over the years. So a lot of my biggest clients have been referrals from some of these groups of friends. And so my clients actually range all over the United States at different parts. And being in Las Vegas, it's been great to be a hub to, you know, everybody comes to Vegas for the conferences or whatever, and so they meet with me while they're here, and so it's been neat that way. As far as Vegas markets, one thing I noticed for sure, you want to keep an eye on the economy, keep an eye on the Vegas housing market. It always leads the economy. Just
Hmm.
saying, every time it's ducked, the housing markets start laying off before everybody else. The builders lay off, and then it's just a trickle down effect to grind down the economy. Just something I've noticed. My ex-wife used to be a controller of Beazer Homes at the last downturn, so it was a cycle I was very, very intimate with.
That makes sense. It's interesting to even think about that. It's definitely a hub. You guys have probably more conferences than I don't know between y'all and Orlando. I feel like there's never not a conference going on at some point somewhere.
It definitely drives our entertainment and our food industries on the strip. Like when COVID hit, it hit us hard.
Yeah.
So it's nice that people are coming back to Las Vegas. We enjoy seeing people at downtown. Personally, I avoid it, but we enjoy
Yeah.
seeing people down there.
Well, and we came out there for our uh, lucky number seventh wedding anniversary, which was in November of 2020. So I remember
Oh
we
wow,
walked. I
coming
remember
up
we
on
walked
14
from.
then.
Oh yeah, we'll be 13 this year, so we're getting close.
All right.
13 in November. But while we were there, we stayed at the Cosmo while it was still cheap because no one had figured it out yet. Now you can't afford to stay there. Um, but I remember we walked from the Cosmo all the way up to the Mandalay Bay, and I think we passed two people. It was the craziest thing ever to see Vegas so empty. Um,
Yeah, once in a lifetime opportunity.
yeah,
Um, I jumped on my bike and rode down Vegas Boulevard during that time. It was pretty cool. There's a bunch of us went on a little bike ride down there.
no, it was so interesting, and I mean we had a fantastic time the whole time we were there. I mean everything was still open. We still got to go do all the things we wanted to do. It was just
Nobody there.
there's nobody there. I never thought I would have seen Vegas that way. Um, but it was a really cool experience.
It was the closest to the modern day ghost town as you're going to get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And of one place that you would never expect it to be a ghost town, it was that place. So you talk about, you have a network all over the country. One of the things that you talk about really is how you turn financial chaos into clarity for your customers and your clients. So what does chaos actually look like in a trades business, and how do you go about bringing that back to clarification to get a business owner kind of back on the same page to understand what they're doing with their business?
Well, I mean, the first thing you got to do is, like in any business, it's got to first be able to be profitable. But as soon as you have profit, you got to start, putting in controls and processes into place to handle the financial concerns of the business. it's important to do good bookkeeping, have a good team around you, have good internal controls so people can't be embezzling funds or kiting checks or doing all the crazy things that people do because they just don't want to work for a living. Okay, it's so amazing how smart they are, but they don't want to use that brain of theirs. But anyway, so you'd want to make sure you safeguard against those things. Once you get good accounting done, then it's all about, I say it's about having a map. You got to measure, analyze, and plan. And what you don't measure, you cannot manage. So if you're not doing good bookkeeping, you're not keeping it up to date on a regular weekly, monthly, gosh, I hope not any later than monthly basis, you probably don't have the best measurements going on to manage your business with. So that's something you can clean up right away. The better you do your accounting, the more you understand your numbers. Your numbers tell us stories. I look at financial statements and they tell me what went on. Like, especially if I can look at a month over month over month, I can start seeing cycles. I can start asking you questions. Why does this happen? You know the answers. I don't. You live that. When I ask you, when I point this out and say, what happens at this time of year that causes this? You'll tell me why. And I'm like, aha, that makes sense. What can we do about that? And then we can start having those kind of questions. And if you're not looking at your numbers that way, you're not looking at your numbers the right way. So you got to be able to tell the stories that your numbers are telling and explain the variances, do the analysis, dig in, ask questions, be curious. That's how you learn how to be a better business manager and owner.
This episode of the HVAC R&D podcast is brought to you by Diversitech, the one-stop source for contractors who want to simplify every job. Whether you're stocking up on install supplies, service parts, thermostats, controls, or digging into the legendary tool line from Hillmore, Diversitech has you covered. They're not just a parts supplier. They help build solutions for HVAC pros, offering pads, condensate management gear, electrical parts, replacement components, premium tools that make install, service calls, and maintenance faster, cleaner, and more professional. Partnering with Diversitech means fewer trips back to the supply house, more time on the job, and less chance of callbacks because you're using the right gear from the start. If you want to work smarter, stay stocked up, and show up for every job ready, Diversitech is a trade pro's best friend. Now, trade crew, depending on when you're hearing this, you may have already seen, or soon you will see, the president of Mon Hummel have me literally jump on one of their filters during the AHR Expo. And let me tell you, rhinos don't just jump on anything. The thin line Ultramax frameless HVAC mini pleat filter is built for commercial and industrial applications where medium to high efficiency filtration truly matters. It delivers MERV 13 performance with low pressure drop to help maximize energy savings, plus high dust holding capacity for extended service life. And there's no traditional plastic, metal, or cardboard frame, reducing environmental impact while still delivering serious durability. If it can handle a rhino, it can handle your job site. Learn more through the Mon Hummel link in the HVAC R&D Vendor Hub today. You know, you talked about a lot of that comes down to these businesses don't always need to have more sales. They just need to understand where their revenue is coming from and where it's going so that they can make the best use of it and understand what their business is really doing. And I know I talk about it all the time, and I wear out talking about E-Myth on this show, but I say it all the time. There's so many guys that build themselves a great job and they go work in their business, but they don't work on it. And they don't have the thoughts of, well, you know, we'll get where we got to go. We just got to sell more. We got to sell more. We got to sell more. But that's not always the case because they don't see where it's going.
Okay, I will I'll share my own story about this with you guys. And if I get emotional, you'll have to forgive me because this is my story. Like I say I'm a E-Myth failure, if you will. But I mean, in the failure comes the beauty of knowing who I am. So
Yeah.
I accept that failure gratefully. Because like I am a great tactician, a great one. I'm really, really good CPA. I can dig in. and I can know who my boss is, so I know who not to piss off, and I know who works for me, and I can kind of be a dick that way. Okay. So I was a terrible business owner, absolutely horrible person to work for. I wanted to tell you what to do and how to do it and give you very little latitude in how you get it done. That's not a great way to manage people. Um, I don't like being managed that way. That's why I revolted and went and started my own company up and did my own thing and got so busy and struggled finding people that would be tolerant of me to work for me so much that like my world crashed and burned as and I merged my firm in with another firm a few years ago, and I have never been so grateful to like let go of the will, if you will. And in that process, I took that time to do the work to get to know who I am, what was important to me, what made me happy, what made my world tick, what made me excited to get up in the morning. I like being a CPA. I'm really good at it. I like teaching people about how to be a better CPA. I don't want to be anyone's boss. I'm a terrible boss. But I do want to serve the clients, the friends, the people that have been there for me um, through this whole journey of life. Like, I want to be there for them the same way they've been there for me, the way I can be best as their CPA, as their friend, as their CFO. I'll take whatever hat on people want me to take on. And merging in with this firm, I was lucky enough to wake up and realize that if I started changing the way I was doing things because I wasn't so busy doing all the work that I had to do, I had time to think and time to discuss how better to do things and designed a better way to serve my clients so that like I get what's important to me. I want to live a good life. That doesn't mean I want a ton of money. It means I want a balance between a good amount of money and a good amount of time to spend with the people I love. That is a big distinction, and I will gladly say I am the prodigal son. I used to think I was a big brother because, I was a good kid. Um, but in my business, I definitely sat out and served my ego, and I have crashed and burned, and my feet are set, my path is straight, and I'm on my way home.
Do you feel a lot of that personal experience is why you've truly kind of leaned into working with home service and small businesses more as you've been able to free yourself and work with the people you want to work with?
I do. I think that's at the heart of what I am is service. Like I love it. The people that I work the most closely with are small home service businesses. I enjoy them the most. They need a practical CPA, somebody that like gets that. Hey, we can't adhere to all these rules, but rules are important. So we gotta put in the controls that keep the rules from being broken, but we keep the flow of work going in a manner that we're able to get this stuff done still. Because there is a balance between like pomp and circumstance and efficiency, and small businesses have to walk that tightrope so hard to be effective and efficient and stay competitive. And like that's one of the things that I enjoy being the CFO for because I can tell them, hey, this isn't one of those corners we cut. This is one of those things that is important. Like I got a lot of salt in my gray hair that I keep shaved now because I so gray. Um, like trust me, I know that there's pitfalls out there. And if you're willing to listen and be taught, I'm always happy to teach people. But that's something very clear distinction is I'm looking for willing students. I'm not looking to bring you to the water unwillingly. Like if you want to come and follow me, then come follow me. But if you want to argue with me, I'll gladly go on down the road.
Before we got on the show, we were talking about how you really want to be your customer's CFO, and do you believe that's truly the difference between being a traditional accountant and what you call a more strategic CPA that's really there to help educate them how to help run their business more efficiently.
I do. And this is something that I think business owners, especially small service industry business owners, when you hire a CPA, you're expecting to get more than just a tax return. Like you're expecting to get questions answered about sales tax. What's this use tax stuff? I have no idea what that is. Oh, that's sales tax after the fact. If you bought stuff out of state, they shipped it in, didn't charge you sales tax. That's called use tax. People don't know that. I didn't know that when I started business. That was a wake up call. Like we all get these things and we're all pissed off at our CPA when there's something financial that he could have, should have, would have told us at the very beginning because we didn't know any better. And that's the thing is the more that like you are hiring a CPA, but like let's create the space so that the dialogue can happen, so we can access the background of obviousness that you are coming to me at, so I can talk to you and educate you from where you're at to where you need to be as a business owner. Like if you're only meeting with your CPA once or twice a year, you are not talking to him enough. Like here's the crazy thing is like all the clients that I still work for, these guys I would consider friends. I'm not joking. Every last one of them I would consider a friend. If they called me up and said, Sam, Saturday I'm moving, need your back, I would be there even though my back is old. I might bring cookies, but I'd be there. Like these are people I show up for. These are people that show up for me. I'm lucky I get to work for these people. And that's why I want to bring this awareness out there. One of the things we're offering in CFO and more is I'll come fly out to you. I'll spend a day doing a deep dive. I'll go over your tax returns. I'll go over your accountings. I'll meet with your accounting team. I'll just ask questions why we're doing this, why we're doing that, overall big picture, and just dig in, dig in, dig in. And you want to like have a good clean bill of health issued on your CPA. I do this for $3,500. You mentioned, our HVAC show here. I'd be more than happy to do it for $3,000. I'll come out there, do a full day with you, do a deep dive, fly out there. Your flat cost is $3,000. Go through, do a deep dive. I'll meet with you. I'll even meet with you and your CPA. Show them the findings that I have. I'm not here to replace your CPA. I'm here to accentuate your CPA. Make sure he's dotting I's, crossing T's. Make sure you're demanding the conversations you need to have with him. Like, this is a gap in understanding between CPAs and clients that, like, we need to work together to make these things work. We need to know your financial planners. We need to know your attorneys. Like, sometimes it's better if we just dialogue without you because, like, we got legal jargon crap that we got to deal with that we don't really like. We both want to take care of you. Like, we just need to do it a little quicker.
Nope, and I completely understand that. And I've been very lucky that I have a CPA here that she deals with everything that I set up for the show. She deals with all of our personal stuff too, and she's been fantastic. And she and I don't run a huge amount of revenue through the show. I run through what it needs to survive, but she and I meet at least probably 3 or 4 times a year. I'd say almost quarterly. But I mean, anytime we sit down together, we talk for 2 hours. We talk about business. We talk about things that I've got ideas on. How could we make this work with the show? If it was something I spun through it, how could we expand this part of a business if we did it? Here and there, I'll ask questions about something I've seen with one of my customers because in distribution, I deal with businesses from one guy in a truck to multi-$100 million businesses. I used to deal with one of the largest companies in the country that's based right here in Charlotte, and they're an absolute monster. I've dealt with either end of the spectrum, so there's always different questions, and I wonder about how each of them run their business and how they can grow, and how can I use those things when I go and meet with a potential new customer and he wants to talk about growing his business. Well, maybe I'm helping him grow his business with products and equipment and materials and those things that fill the needs of his business. But if I understand the other ins and outs of different aspects of the business, he and I can have a deeper relationship. We can probably become better friends. And, you talk about having clients that you'll show up for them. I've had contractors and buddies that have showed up for me. The 3 times that my wife and I have moved in this Charlotte area, all 3 times I had a different contractor show up with a truck and a trailer and help me. Sometimes not even asked. They just knew I was moving. And they're like, "Hey, you need some help?" "Yeah, man, it'd be great. Thank you."
And that's the part about small businesses that I love, is because you build a sense of community there. And this is something that's important to know too, is building relationships of trust and value, being an honorable business owner, standing by your word, like being able to have honest conversations with your customers and clients. Like, this is important because we all are here to make money. Now, sometimes things go wrong. We got to have honest conversations on how to clean that up. Like,
Yep.
we all are here to help each other. Like, we can't get there without each other. So when we got problems, we not need to discuss them. I always say bad news never gets better with time. As soon as you got some bad news, let's start talking about how to mitigate it, because you know what is, you'll be surprised how many great people there are out there. If you're like, "Hey, I got a problem, I need help." Like, I got caught. I'm really just bearing my soul on your show. I got caught cheating in 10th grade chemistry. I love chemistry. I loved it. And I couldn't remember the universal gas law. So I looked over on my neighbor's paper. Guess what? He ended up being a CPA too. He didn't have it right. And I was like, shoot.
You guys had the wrong chemistry.
Yeah,
Literally.
yeah. I'm like, well, he doesn't have it right. And then I looked over on my other neighbors who I played basketball with, and he didn't have it right either. He had a one off, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I looked up, and the teacher was eyeballing me, and I put my pencil down on my paper, and I sat back and waited for the end of class. And he pulled me into his office, and he's like, "Sam, what were you doing?" And I'm like, "I forgot the universal gas law." He goes, "Well, you looked on Pat's paper." I'm like, "Yeah, Pat didn't have it down right." And he goes, so he goes rifling through his papers, and he pulls out Pat's, and he's like, "You're right, he doesn't have it right." And he goes, and then you looked on Ken's paper, and I'm like, "Yep." And he goes rifling through it, and he pulls out Kent's, and he's like, "Yep, Ken didn't have it right either." And he goes, "Sam, if you knew they weren't right, why didn't you come and ask me for it?" And I go, "I
Didn't know that was an option.
And he goes, "Sam, this is a life lesson here. Every question you don't ask, you've already accepted a no." Wow, that has changed my life. I appreciate that chemistry teacher every day of my life. Like, because I ask a lot of questions. I ask for a lot of help, and I'm always shocked. And I think the world's one of the most amazing places ever, because I am always amazed at how kind and generous and helpful people are. But like if you take, you better give. So like, that's how this works. Like, it's a reciprocal thing. Like, I take help, but man, I give it. As soon as somebody wants help, I'm there. I'll help, but you got to want it. I'm not just going to shove it down your throat, because then you're going to resent it and hate me. I want to show up when you're ready. Like, the teacher appears when the student's ready.
No, and I think that's completely correct. And I see that a lot of times. There's times when I'll have guys that'll ask me for help, and then there's other times I'm like, I know this guy needs to ask for something, but he won't do it. So I don't know how to help you with something that you can't share with me to help you find a solution for. And that's not me saying I can fix every problem, because I sure as hell can't. I got as many questions or more as the next guy, but I've seen a lot of basic, just simple things. I'm like, man, you can fix that. It's like, you can fix it. You just got to ask to be able to help getting it fixed.
So this is interesting. I used to study with this school. It was called the AGI Network, and it's a business professionals course. And they talk about plus selves, zero selves, and minus selves. So plus selves, they're kind of like the lone wolf. They don't ask for help, but they also don't think they need very much help. That's a plus self. We all know people like that.
Yep.
I can be someone like that. Okay. Then you have your zero selves. Okay. they don't ask for help, but they'll take help, and they don't give help, but if you ask them for help, they'll give it to you. So they're neutral. Like they give and take as needed. If they're really stumped, they'll ask, but they don't necessarily always ask. They're kind of like zero self. They'll just kind of float around. And then there's the minus selves. And this is where I fall into. They're the ones that walk around and they see somebody doing something. They're like, hey, you can also do it like this. Oh, there might be a better way to do it like this. And we just can't help ourselves. We just can't stop. like, like I'm that person, okay? So like we give help willingly and we also accept help willingly. But like people sometimes think we don't want help because we are a little bit assertive. But like we're like, no, you got input, get over here. Like let's figure it out together. Like that's how I am. And that's a quality that I like have to harness because I'm willing to do it anywhere. And that's where I say like I've learned to wait for the student to be ready. Like I'm ready to help, but I've learned to whoa. I'll even ask people, do you want help there? Because I've learned if I just shove it in there, that I usually get smacked in the nose for it, and I don't like it.
Yep.
I'm just trying to help. So I'll be like, hey, do you want some help? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, if you do, come back.
Trade crew, I'd like to introduce you to my friends over at LiveSwitch. If you haven't heard of them, they're developing a platform specifically for trades contractors and service professionals like yourselves. So picture this. Mrs. Jones calls the office, her furnace is making some kind of strange sound. Normally, you would just have to roll the truck and go see what's going on, but instead with LiveSwitch, you can jump on a video call right then and there with no app with Mrs. Jones. You can see things from her perspective on a fully functional video call. You can take screenshots, you can record, and you can deliver a different experience that no other contractor is giving their homeowners right now. If you're worried about it working with stuff you're already using, you know what? It integrates perfectly into Jobber, Service Titan, House Call Pro, any of the stuff that you guys are already using. It makes it a seamless transition to add this new tool to your arsenal. Go to hvacrnd.com, visit the vendor hub, set up your LiveSwitch demo today. You can also click the link down in the description below, or you can find the link to the demo in my bio. Thanks everybody for listening to the show. Check out LiveSwitch. I promise you it is an app for you. It gives you an ability to do something completely different for homeowners that no one else is doing right now. You guys won't be disappointed. Go schedule your demo today. All right, IAQ folks, this one's for the contractors and the trade crew that are looking to level up their indoor air quality installs and make life easier in the process. The new Honeywell Home Whole Home Dehumidifier is a high-performance IAQ system designed with input from HVAC partners like yourselves. The revolutionary tri-directional outlet design with horizontal, vertical, and right-angle options speeds up installation and integrates seamlessly. To learn more about the Honeywell Home Whole Home Dehumidifier, head over to the HVAC R&D Vendor Hub and click the Residio Honeywell Home link for more details. That entire concept kind of pulls out one of the things that this show talks about all the time. You know, I talk a lot about collaboration over competition. The trades is gotten to the point for many years, you know, contractors next to each other did nothing but butt heads when half the time they weren't fighting over the same business anyway. There's enough work to go around for all of us. And if every one of us could be just a little bit more of a minus self that offers collaboration all the time as opposed to taking away from something else, our entire industry as a whole, hell, the entire economic system as a whole, if it was more than just the trades, obviously, would benefit greatly. People personally would benefit greatly.
I do think that, like, again, like, as we all, like, I guess, have our own bus crashes and, like, learn to set our own ego aside and seek out the greater good in life. Like, because, like, honestly, that's where I feel like I've gotten to be here. It's a spiritual journey to me as much as a financial one. And it's funny, I always say finances and spirituality, they are very tethered together. whether people pay a full tithe, whether people adhere to this law or that law, like whatever your belief is. I don't want to get into right or wrong. I think those are just labels, but um, it's usually right or wrong according to who or whom.
Yep.
Um, and so whatever your highest authority is, and I would argue the highest authority is your I am, the the still small voice inside of you, your Holy Ghost. Like that's your highest authority. When you offend that, your heart is pricked and you know it. So if you hold yourself accountable to that, I think that's the best way we could be better, starting with that and then building from there. But that's my personal belief. And I don't really care what religious background anybody subscribes to. I think if we were started to be true to ourselves on when we knew we did wrong and stop doing that, we could bring heaven to earth a whole lot faster.
We're talking about accountability. I know I'll steer us a bit I want to make sure that we do ask some of the questions I want to ask. And one of them is the accountable plan, which is something that was mentioned in your questionnaire and your information, and most guys have never heard of it. But what is it and how does it save money?
Okay, so a lot of service industry businesses, you guys got work trucks, you got trucks that you have your guys that they've outfitted themselves and you reimburse them for their truck and these automobile allowances, and you do it $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. I've seen them as high as $3,000 a month. This does not pass an IRS audit, you guys. You will have issues. An accountable plan is where you're reimbursing for mileage. So if your guys are driving their own truck and you're reimbursing them for mileage, then they got to submit an expense report every month. Meals, entertainment, everything needs to be attached to that. Licenses, anything you're reimbursing them for. A lot of times people just use equipment reimbursement or equipment rental or contract labor, subcontractor, but they're the same people as their employee list. This will get you in trouble for sure. These are no-nos. These are skirting the laws. These are things you need to clean up as soon as possible. I understand the games we play and why we play them, but as soon as we can, we need to stop playing this one for sure.
What about the Augusta rule? Another one that was brought up in some of your topics. How can contractors use that to their best advantage?
Well, I love the Augusta rule, okay? I think there's a lot of applique here. So it comes out of Augusta, Georgia, the Masters Golf Tournament. These people that live around the Augusta Golf Tournament are on the golf course. They rent out their house to the golfers, to these corporations that come in for a couple of weeks. They've lobbied Congress so they don't have to pick this income up as taxable income. So if you operate a business and you have taxable income, that means you could rent your own house out for 2 weeks, have your corporate board minute meeting with your board of directors and your officers of your corporations, which just happen to be, or at least they should be, your wife and your children, so that you can drag them all home for 2 weeks, rent out your house for 2 weeks, do your board minute meetings, document the business use of your home. You got to document it, folks. That's where we win. Okay. Then, I'll even schedule a couple meetings with you during this time so that I'll send you a bill with my time saying that we met and we did it on Zoom and, at the call to your home. And then we further document the business use of this. So you cannot include this rental of your home as taxable income. Depending on the size, the zip code, the amenities of your home, this would be comparable to a VRBO or a Airbnb rental for 2 weeks. You can write yourself a check out of your business, lower your taxable income, and not have to pick it up as income tax. So it saves you 3, 4, maybe $5,000. That's just low-hanging fruit. Now you want to really get creative with this, all right? We can have meetings. We can have conversations. Maybe you have a key employee that is a hub for everybody else. Maybe a family member to a lot of these key employee members. rent out their home for the weekend. Tell them to throw a barbecue. Like, like do stuff like that and write them a check for the rental of their home as for $2,000.
Treat it like a venue.
Yeah. Like there's other application to this that like you have to have a business purpose. Then you have to document the said business purposes and the business use of the home. Like you just can't write yourself a check and never do anything. That's not in the spirit of the law. You got to do something and do something constructive and helpful and, lift the business while you're doing it. It's not just because we can. No, that's going to get you slapped. I always say when it comes to the IRS, little pigs are cute and hogs get slaughtered.
That's pretty good. Well, and you brought up family members, your wife, your kids. One thing, you can hire your kids for what, up to $10,000 a year.
I think it's more than that. You could Google me, but I think it's 15. But you ask to be a husband and wife owned business. Like husband and or wife have to own 100% of said business. You can pay your minor children for the work they do inside your business a reasonable hourly rate. You just have to pay them as contract labor. You don't have to pick that up and pay Social Security and Medicare on that. One, it's kids aren't working age. They're learning at their parents' hands. You want to talk about going to school. That's the best kind of school you could give your kid. Like, do it with dignity and respect, sure, but like, wow, that's how we used to learn from our parents, is going to work, showing up on the farm, doing what needed to be done. Like, where did that go in America?
Well, and that's how I grew up.
That's how I grew up.
Dad said, if you want an allowance, you can go to work. Otherwise, I guess you're going to be broke.
Yeah, I mean, I had to milk a cow every morning, every night. But man, I sure loved homemade ice cream.
Well, and talk about company corporate structure. A lot of these guys start as sole proprietors because they don't necessarily know any better. They just think that's how they should do. But at what point do they need to look at structuring to an LLC or an S corp?
Okay, that's a great question, especially if you got a lot of E-Myth listeners here. Okay, so you got the entrepreneurial bug. You started working. You're happy. When you're making about taxable income, and I say taxable income because I really mean taxable income, because the game here is about taxes. Okay, you're making taxable income of about $60,000. Now it's time to, if you start making considerably more, okay, now it's time to set up an LLC and make an S election. And all that is you're filing a form to tell the IRS that you want to be taxed under subchapter K of the Internal Revenue Code. Okay, so you're an S corporation. So you have to pay yourself salary for what you do in the business, but not all the business income is subject to self-employment tax, which is Social Security and Medicare tax. Combined, it's 15.3%. So if you're making $100,000, but what you'd have to pay somebody to do your job, what you go and do for the company, is $40,000 a year, then you need to pay yourself $40,000 a year on a W-2. And the other $60,000 is considered a dividend. So it's like you're working for Kellogg's, driving the forklift like I like to do, but you own all of the stock of Kellogg's, and Kellogg's made $1 million that year, but you just drive the forklift, so you have to pay what a forklift driver makes. That's $55,000 a year. So you have to pay yourself $55,000 a year for driving the forklift, but the other $1 million is a dividend. That means it's not subject to Social Security or Medicare. You might not think that's a big deal. Social Security caps out at, what is it, $225,000 now? It's getting way up there. Okay? So if you only need to pay yourself $60,000 a year, but you're making $100,000, that's going to save you $40,000 times 15.3%. So that's about $6,000 in taxes. That's a lot of money, folks.
Oh yeah.
That's why we do S corporations, okay? Because that's there, okay? Out of that $6,000 savings, let's be real. You need to pay your CPA. That's going to cost you a minimum of at least $2,000, all right? That's just to get the taxes done. You want to work with someone like me, plan on working at least like $4,000 to $6,000 for your CPA, okay? Because you want that time and space to meet with him. You want these ideas of the Augusta rule worked into your system. You want everything they can teach you how to do. After they work with you on that kind of level, trust me, this is what I do. I'll let you transition to a maintenance person. Like, that's not me, but they're trained by me. You don't need to work with me. That's okay. I'm not thrilled about maintenance mode anyways. I got people for that. But then we can get your job done and it's still reasonable for you. So there's a lot of avenues here where you can get good help. But people that just want to charge you an arm and a leg just because they can charge you an arm and a leg, it's like the contractors that come in and give me these crazy bids for when I want to replace my flooring. Like I don't have clients that do this stuff. I don't know what it costs. Like, it's fair is fair, right? Like when you're talking about your CPA, you want a good CPA. They want good contractors too. So pay what a good CPA is worth. If you cheap out, you're cheaping out, and don't forget it.
No, that's the truth. And talking about cheaping out and other things, what are some of the biggest hidden money leaks that you see with maybe particularly HVAC, so that's a lot of our listener base, but just home service businesses really in general?
I would say the biggest like leaks in the home service is like your scheduling systems. I think those things are huge, especially in HVAC. If you can see what techs are going out on what calls and how long they're spending on each call, like, and what salespeople convert what sales calls, like, it makes a big difference on the decisions you make as a business operator. Sorry, my dog's barking.
Nope, and I muted it because then mine started to bark.
Hey,
They're talking to each other. They wanted their own show.
Come here. Somebody's out front walking their dog, and she wants to go say hi because she knows them.
I know all about that.
She's like,
Ours.
Yeah.
We've got 2 bedrooms across from each other upstairs of the house. One bedroom is the home office, which I'm in. And then I've got a gate that goes across the hallway so they can run from my office into their little room that we keep them in whenever we go like to dinner or something to put them up somewhere. But it's got a window that looks right into our neighbor's backyard. And anytime their dogs go out, these guys just go nuts because they just want to bark and say hey and everything else. So I completely feel you on that one.
Do they get to hang out together ever?
We've still not done it. We've been here a little over 2 years. We ought to try it.
Yeah.
Their dog is a chocolate lab. I think she's 4 or 5. And I think she would love at least our youngest little one. I think would have a lot of fun with her. The other 2, I don't know so much about. They're a bit more keep it to home and nippy, but I think Rhodes would have a good old time. Yeah. And I'd love to be able to just let him go and run and be free for a bit.
So I leave the front door open a lot and just let her, like, because I sit out there with her a lot. So she's met most of the neighbors that walk around, and everybody understands she's not a threat now. And so like when I work here, I'll leave the front door open so she can run out and say hi. And then, they'll always be hollering at me. They're like, hey, Sam, and I'll come running out and say hey and whatever. Because I love living up here in this. Like, I'm like the youngest person in this old neighborhood.
Trade crew, here's a quick one for you as we head into spring. Indoor air quality is about to be a big conversation with your customers, and this is one of the easiest ways to step into it. The Fresh Air UV APCO X Ultra from Diversitech installs directly inside the ductwork, so every time your HVAC system runs, it's actively treating the air in the home. It uses UVC light combined with activated carbon technology to help reduce odors, mold, bacteria, viruses, and dreaded VOCs. So you're not just moving air anymore, you're helping improve it. And as a bonus, the UVC light also helps keep the coil cleaner, which supports system efficiency over time. Now, from a contractor standpoint, this is a high value add-on. It solves real homeowner problems like smells and allergies, adds to your ticket, and doesn't add a ton of labor. Plus, it's low maintenance with a 3-year lamp and a built-in indicator that tells the homeowner when it's time to call you back. That's repeat business built in. If you want to learn how to actually turn IAQ into a revenue system, go check out the Ramblin' Rhino column on the HVAC R&D Substack and check out the article titled Beyond the Filter. So remember, Fresh Air UV APCO X Ultra from Diversitech. What's up, trade crew? You've heard the buzz, you've seen the press gang at every single AHR. Contractors across the country are ditching their torches for RLS press fittings, and they're not looking back. Why? Because RLS lets you finish faster, safer, and cleaner. From rooftops to mechanical rooms, crawl spaces and attics, it's a press and go solution that's leak tested, UL recognized, and proudly made in America. Make the switch to RLS and take the heat out of your installs, literally. RLS, rapid locking system, press forward and press on. What's funny is Chris and I, at one point, we actually looked at buying a house in a 55 and plus community just because we get along really well with older people, and I love just sitting and having conversations with people. Obviously, I've got a podcast. All I want to do is talk to people.
Right.
But I love being around people that have knowledge that I don't have yet and that I can learn from. And maybe I can avoid some stupid mistakes here and there by listening to people that have went through more of life than I have.
It's funny, like, I don't think you can avoid any of the stupid mistakes you're going to make personally anymore. Because, like, there's been times when, like, I'm not kidding you, I've made the worst mistakes of my life. And I can hear my dad in my echoing in my brain telling me not to do this. I can hear different people in my life, like, say these things, and I can be like, oh, wow, I just really wouldn't hear it any other way than getting smacked upside the head right here, right now. Like, wow, I am an unteachable fool. Like, wow, some lessons I guess I just got to learn this way. That's why I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if we can avoid those. I think sometimes
we probably can't.
I think sometimes we just nose blind to them and we're just going to get it upside the head. And that's, but like, that's also like why when it gets served up to you that way, like handle it with a little bit of grace and and give other people that same grace when they're getting it handed to them and be like, yeah, dude, I know I've been like, cause like we've all been there. We've all been the one that could learn from hearing it. And then we've all been the one that couldn't learn from hearing it and had to have our knee bent. And so when our knee's bent, I think we want some grace because like that's never fun. And so we got to extend it to each other when it's like delivered around the table because like we're all in different states of awareness, if you will, or states of consciousness. And like we're all learning and growing wherever we're at. And sometimes we're ahead, sometimes we're behind. It's not about being better than or less than. It's about like moving forward and being gracious and helpful along the way and not being a stumbling block in anybody's way.
And that brings up, a key part of how I start kind of going towards the end of our show and talking about things is I really want there to be a couple of questions that allow you to kind of, not that you haven't already given a ton of information and kind of given back, but some of this is just really about kind of pouring into the community of people that listen to this show. One question I wanted to ask was, you've helped a lot of business owners build wealth over the years, but what separates the ones or the businesses that succeed long-term versus the ones that don't?
That's really tough because it could be any number of reasons, but long-term, those ones they plan for the future. They are conscientious about maintaining access to cash and avoiding debt whenever possible. Like a lot of times people come to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to owe this much in tax. I should go buy a new truck." And I'm like, "No, no, you pay your tax and you put that money in the bank because like tomorrow is so uncertain. Like if you don't need a new truck, your truck is fine. Don't go buy a new truck. You're spending $100,000 to save 25,000 in tax. It doesn't make any sense at all. Sometimes it's about managing your taxes. Like, so you got to be prepared and have the ability to weather a couple storms. Like it's the same things you to learn about personal finances. Got to have 6 months in reserves. You got to have this. You got to have that. Like, listen to those rules of thumb. They come in handy.
Talking about listening to rules of thumb and different things, we've briefly touched on this before, but especially for guys that were great technicians that are becoming business owners, what are some key ways to help them truly start thinking as a business owner instead of just the technician that's bringing revenue to their business?
There's a book I would encourage everybody to read. It's called Buy Your Time Back. If you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, get this book. It's called Buy Your Time Back. I don't know who wrote it. I read it, was like, oh, wow, this is everything I did wrong when I was running my business. I never replaced myself. If as soon as you can pay somebody to do something that you don't like doing, do it. Get out of the weeds. Go do what sets your hair on fire because that's where you're the most effective. And stay the heck out of the way of the people that do the stuff that you're not good at. Make sure that you have somebody looking over their shoulders, i.e., somebody like me, so that you can stay out of their way because you just upset the apple cart when you go in there yelling and screaming. So, like, that would be a good thing to do.
If someone, well, and you kind of just said it, I was going to say, if someone really wants to build a business that gives them actual freedom, what's the first mindset shift they have to make? You really just said it. As soon as you can pay someone and afford someone to do what you're not wanting to do anymore, do it and keep growing and do more.
Well, and that's an important thing too. Is I think when you set out, like, I mean, I remember when I set out to open my own CPA firm, I thought, man, if I just had $200,000 worth of clients, I'd never want for a thing, blah, 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 blah. And by the time I sold my firm, it was well over $1 million. Um, and I wasn't happy. So define what happiness really looks like and look out into the future. Because, like, if you don't define what winning looks like periodically, when you get there, you won't know you won and you'll just keep playing the game because you're addicted to playing the game. I've seen it over and over and over again. Don't lose touch with what is important to you. Like, it's easy to get caught up into being a business owner and running this business because this business is my identity. Okay? No. Like, I promise you, like, when you're dead and gone, no one will care what you did.
Nope.
So please, like, take care of those relationships that matter and show up to those that you love because that's going to matter way more than anything else when all this is said and done. This is what we do to live, not what defines us.
Yeah, work to live, don't live to work.
Yep. And hey, I made that mistake, folks. I'm preaching to I'm the pot calling the kettle black here. I'm not claiming any high ground. I'm saying if you're doing it, like you might want to give me a call. I might be able to help you stop.
Well, and I still battle with it, especially when I first got into distribution. Really, when I first truly became a commission territory manager, I mean, I was just work, 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 and our marriage suffered, our relationship suffered because I was so focused on figuring this out that I forgot there were also things I still needed to figure out, as a young married couple and as a young
Yeah.
husband. And we had difficulties from time to time because of things like that. So it takes time to be able to learn all those things. And if any of us said we had all of that figured out, we'd all be lying to ourselves and to everybody else. But I think it's important that we continue to remind one another that we have to find a way to find that balance and, like you said, take care of the people around you.
And it's a lot easier than it may seem on the face of it, because where we put our focus and our attention, wherever we put that, we will cultivate and grow. Um, so you're like, you may say, I don't know where to start, but I know I need to work here. Start putting time and attention and start being curious in that part of your life. That'll be a great way to start. Ask the people around you, like, hey, how can I get better at this? How can I get better at that? How can I show up better? Like, in the ways you want to improve. Like, you'll be surprised how many of the people around you will be more than happy to give you a guiding nudge. Now, you need to listen to that and carry it with your own self, because, like, you got to be okay with yourself before you're okay with anyone else.
100%. Sam, if you could give, one last piece of advice to the trade crew listening right now, whether it be about money, taxes, business, personally, what would that be?
Like the trade crew, like rank and file included. Like, I don't care who
Everybody.
you are.
The
Like,
trade crew is who listens to this show. That's what we
yeah,
call our little community. But it's from one end to the other, whether it's the guy with the wrench or the guy paying for the wrench or the guy teaching you how to write off the wrench. You're talking to everybody.
I think it's important to always show up and do your best job and keep learning, because, um, whether you're the guy turning the wrench or the guy doing the accounting for the guy that owns the company that you work for, like, we're all doing a job. Um, we all need that job done by the person doing it. Like, there is no high ground that one man can claim above another. We are all on the level. And when I say that, I mean that. So anytime one holds themselves above another, I caution you there, my friend. Like, I don't think that you have the ability to claim high ground. We all need each other. And so, just like that, do the best job you can at whatever job you're doing. Master your craft. Be a master at it. Don't just be good at it. Be a master at your craft. Be passionate or don't do it at all. That's what I always say. So that's what I would say is, if you look at it like that, you are working for yourself. Every last one of us is working for, like, our own business, which is me, which is doing it the best I can, which is mastering my craft, which is figuring out a better way to do it. Like, however that is, like, go be the best you can be.
I love it. Well, Sam, thank you so much for your time. Lastly, I want you to kind of tell everyone where they can connect with you. I'll get with you and we'll put some links into the vendor hub, which I'm strongly considering renaming it the vendor hub to like the resource hub or something else because it
I
sounds
like the
better.
resource hub. That sounds
Um,
cool. The
but
connection hub.
that's
Ooh.
it. Yep, yep. The collaboration over competition
Now you can
connection
play
hub.
that song. Oh, I want a connection.
We're gonna date both ourselves for knowing that song.
I know, right?
Um, but where can people connect with you? Where can they find out some more information if they'd like to consider working with you? Can we find you on LinkedIn? Where's the best place to do that?
Um, the best place to reach out to me is probably at Rent My Home, and this goes back to the Augusta rule. Rent My Home at mycfocpa.com. And that's our main connection point. We pimp out the Augusta rule. We try to help people use it and document it and do it to the best of our abilities. And that's the best place to get a hold of us. If you're looking to get a quote on having us come out and do a once over daily trip on your taxes and accounting, go over your internal controls, give you a bill of health, you can reach out to Aaron. That's ERIN at mycfocpa.com.
And like you said, earlier, everybody usually does that for like $3,500. He said he'll do it for $3,000 if you want to do it through the show. Just mention that you heard this episode. Don't know what the episode number is going to be, but you guys will know it once it's out, so you'll know which one to mention. So, Sam, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate the conversation and getting to know one another. I think we should definitely do another one of these again, and hopefully next time in Vegas, maybe we can go grab dinner together and break some bread and have some fun.
Absolutely. Hey, we're big fans of the lacrosse. I have season tickets for the Desert Dogs lacrosse, so shout out to them too.
Nice. Well, Sam, I appreciate you, buddy. I hope you have a good rest of your week and your weekend, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
And that's another one in the books, Trade Crew. If this episode brought you value, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Share this episode with your friends, your coworkers, your install team, your sales reps, and anyone else in the trades that need to hear it. And if you've got a voice, a story, or a lesson that the trades need to hear, this show is built for you. Head over to hvacrnd.com, use the show questionnaire link, or hit the links at any of our social bios, and make sure to get me your information so I can get you booked in for an episode of the show. Because if you're from the trades and you've got something worth saying, HVAC R&D is your platform. Until next time, keep evolving, keep serving, and keep the conversation going. Collaboration over competition always wins, so ramble on, Trade Crew.